Well, it's daily wrap time again, and we've managed to find a little quiet spot in the hustle and bustle of Tokyo Disneyland and away from somewhere that was even busier today, Wallabies team camp. Michael Checker named his squad, and there were 4 changes in the backline. Forward pack unchanged, but 4 changes in the backline. Beth, run us through them.
Yeah, some massive shocks. I mean, first of all, 9 and 10, Will Genia and Bernard Foley reuniting there with Christian Lealiifano dropped out of the 23 altogether and Nick White on the bench. And then moving further on, obviously, Reece Hodge not playing because of that suspension, Adam Ashley Cooper coming on to the wing, and then Dane Hallett-Petty at fullback and Kurtley Beale on the bench. And I don't think anyone was predicting that amount of changes this week. No,
that's right, and there's a lot to unpack there. Michael Checker basically said none of them were form-related calls, other than obviously the Hodge one was by necessity, but none of the others were form-related. He said it was all part of a plan that he'd been working on, pieces of a puzzle he mentioned, and he's been talking about this long-term plan for a little bit. He's been dropping a few hints here and there, but I don't think we expected there to be as many changes as that.
No, definitely not. I mean, Bernard Foley's only played 2 tests in the lead up to the World Cup, so that was a particular shock. I mean, Will Genia coming off the bench last week was a game changer, so maybe that's probably, the one we spoke about as being a bit of an expected one. But it wasn't just the team that Michael Checker was talking about today, was it?
Yeah, there was a fair bit of talk about head-high tackles as well, and obviously Reece Hodge has been rubbed out for 3 games. There was also an intimation within the judiciary finding that the Wallabies weren't across the high tackle framework. Here we are at a World Cup, Beth, and we're talking about high tackle frameworks and all the rest of it. You might have thought we'd be here to talk about the footy, but Michael Checker responded strongly to that today, starting out his press conference by making a statement, and he addressed that high tackle issue head on.
We're not, the framework's for referees, not for players. It's to decide whether there's yellow or red cards in the game. And I think they're using that framework very well in matches myself. Secondly, our players are taught to tackle middle. We're coached to tackle middle. We don't need the framework to tell us where to teach our players to tackle, because they're all taught to tackle middle around here. So I'm not sure where that chat's coming from or why, but just want to get it out there that we don't need the framework to tell us where to tackle. We're not teaching anyone to tackle anywhere else except the middle, where we can dislodge the ball.
So Michael Checker's, look, he's always one to circle the wagons, but he's just used that to pull a little bit tighter in. I think he was using the words us versus everyone else. You can be sure that he's in that team room sort of trying to really lay that siege mentality foundation. Beth, you were up at Wales today. No changes there, really. No surprises. Alan Wynne-Jones is becoming the most capped Welsh player of all time, and they'll certainly look to him for inspiration as usual.
Yeah, absolutely. His 130th cap this weekend, which is kind of a mind-blowing number, especially given how brutal rugby is as a career. And as you mentioned, no surprises in their team, and no bombs being thrown out or anything, or no barbs from Warren Galen. He was keeping everything pretty straight. But he did admit that even he was surprised to see Bernard Foley picked at 10 for this game, and that selection he's expecting to see a little bit more kicking from the Wallabies and a little bit less of that expansive game that maybe we've seen from them the last little while. And definitely, they tried in the first half against Fiji last weekend. So it'd be interesting to see if he's on the money there.
Yeah, so Bernard Foley did a little bit of media today as well. He was sporting a black eye, and someone asked him, how did you get that black eye? It was a funny response.
It was Christian. Christian got me. No, I'm joking. No, that was just a bit of friendly fire at training.
So good to see that Bernard Foley's still got that sense of calm and composure that we know from the Iceman. He was so important in 2015, obviously, and his goal kicking will be really important. Another interesting element he spoke about that night where he had an off night with the boot against Samoa is he'd spent a couple of weeks kicking with the World Cup balls over in Noumea. They'd got a hold of those World Cup balls and then switched back to the normal ball against Samoa. So there was just a little bit of, a lack of consistency, I suppose. And he said that the World Cup ball does just travel a little bit differently to the other balls. So let's see how he goes. I think there is an element of the Wallabies are going to need Bernard Foley on target if they're going to win this match. Yeah,
absolutely. We saw with Wales last year, Dan Biggar proved the difference with his boot, and they are notorious for having really accurate goal kickers, and it's definitely going to be a tight one on Sunday.
Yes, well, there are always tight matches between Australia and Wales. I think in that run of matches dating back to 2009 that Australia won so many of them, I think about 8 or 9 of them were decided by less than 5 points. So you can be sure that this is going to be another tight one. Okay, so it's captain's runs tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow with a bit of Rugby Nation, the game on Sunday, and then we'll see you again on Monday for more Daily Wrap.